Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Samuel Polay, who writes, "One movie I am deliriously excited for is Mission Impossible 7. Among many announcements, Paramount Plus announced that the movie will be streaming there on Paramount Plus just 45 days after its debut in theaters. What do you think of this strategy compared to those rolled out by Disney and Warner Brothers? And what do you think Tom Cruise, another champion of the theatrical experience, had to do with making sure that theaters would at least have some significant window to show this movie?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And listen, it wasn't just Mission Impossible 7 that they're now. Today's show is really all about Paramount Plus making moves, man. Between G.I. Joe, Avatar, now this Mission Impossible 7. It's not just Mission Impossible 7 that's going to go onto Paramount Plus 45 days after theater. It's also
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place. I was going to say Don't Say a Word. Totally different movie. Quiet Place 2 is also, they're now saying, going to go 45 days afterwards. Now, this is what's interesting to me. When Universal tried to pull a stunt, something like that, they did so without talking to the theatrical partners. Paramount is smarter than Universal. I am going to assume that Paramount probably has spent the last number of months talking with their theatrical partners and making sure they got this all worked out. Because what would be messy, to say the least, is if like Regal, AMC, which are finally getting ready to reopen the doors in major markets, if they were to come back saying, "Oh, you think you're going to get 45 days? Well, then we're just not going to play your movie." Mm-hmm. That is not something Paramount wants. 45 days, like I've been saying for a while, I think there are compromises to be made here in the 90-day theatrical window. I'm thinking more like 60 days is a more accurate thing. 45 days is not so far outside that. But again, we are talking about Paramount, a company, and by the way, Iconic Reaction sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Iconic. We're talking about a company that right now is absolute, as any company in their position would be, right now is completely desperate to make a splash. They have to. They are already lapped. They've already been lapped by everybody else from all the moves HBO Max is making. Of course, Disney Plus, Amazon is making some big moves. We talked a little bit about some Amazon stuff coming up yesterday as well. They have got to come out and make a big splash to get attention. Will it be enough? I'm not sure it is. But they are making some good news. Again, the Avatar thing is great. They've got the Star Trek things. Even though Rob doesn't like the Star Trek stuff they're doing, I do. I think it's really good, their Star Trek stuff, except for Below Decks. I think that's terrible. But other than that, they're making some big moves. So it's, to me, if nothing less, it's interesting. You also bring up an interesting point about Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is, like Christopher Nolan, a big theatrical experience guy. Mm-hmm. So not only am I sure that Paramount probably had to have really strong, solid discussions with their theatrical partners, I'm sure they probably had to sit down and have like really good, exhaustive conversations with Tom Cruise as well to make this happen. But I'm going to believe that Paramount probably dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, talked to everybody they needed to talk about, got everybody on board, and then made this move. Whether or not this will be a long-term strategy for them, I doubt it. I think they're just trying to make a big splash getting into the market right now. I think we'll see them do this with a few other movies, but I don't think they're going to be doing this like for 3 years or whatever. But it's an interesting move. Aaron, you hear about this. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think that 45 days to me sounds like an arbitrary number, but obviously nothing in these huge multi-million-dollar decisions is arbitrary. There are people with finance degrees and much more experience that are making these decisions. Absolutely, Tom Cruise was a part of these conversations. I don't think that anything happens in the Mission Impossible world without Tom Cruise having his fingers in every single pot. Yeah. He's not just the star of the movie. He is also the force behind the continuation of the franchise. Without Tom Cruise, I don't know if there is a Mission Impossible. In fact, I seriously doubt it. So 100% Tom Cruise is part of these conversations. I think that, you and I were talking earlier off camera about the bar of movies and the amount of money that they make. Do we have any more billion-dollar films, right now, anything that comes out in the next year or so, it's going to be really challenging.
Nothing's going to make $1 billion in the next. You can make some money, but nothing's going to make $1 billion this year.
And so the bar for how, I mentioned a movie doing well, and even the word well, we don't even know what that word means because the bar continues to change as theaters are opening up, as we are gauging whether or not audiences feel comfortable going back and sitting in theaters. The major markets, like as you said, haven't opened up yet, but they're about to in New York. So we're going to really see, what happens there. I'm really excited for what's happening with Paramount Plus. And like I said, yes, they are behind as far as they have a lot of catching up to do, but they are really dropping a lot of well-known names here. To be able to have the G.I. Joe property, Mission Impossible, all of these, their name just keeps coming up. This is now like the fourth thing that we've talked about just in the last 43 minutes. I keep saying that, but we keep talking about them. Remember back when we were excited about Disney Plus, we were only talking about Mandalorian. We only had one thing and people were freaking out about it. And so I'm really excited to see what, Paramount Plus is doing. And I'm so glad that they're doing this rebranding because CBS All Access.
Terrible title.
So stupid because every time I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm going to watch that show on CBS All Access. I have to pay for this? Why would I pay for CBS? I will pay for Paramount Plus. And I know that it's a stupid thing. It's the exact same thing.
But no, think about it. Look at the shows that CBS has some very highly rated shows, but a lot of their highly rated shows are for like 50 plus and stuff like that. Like when you look at that stuff, right? So if
they're
you're
the
not,
CSI audience.
If you're not, yes, exactly. If you're not into the shows on CBS, then what does CBS?
Although
Plus
they do half-hour multicams very well.
They do, and they have their audience. But I mean, I don't know a lot of people. I know a lot of people who are like Netflix fanboys.
Right.
I know people who are
There's not a lot of CBS fanboys.
Not a lot of CBS fanboys, So why would you go with that title? I did want to read this. This was the official thing that came. That was the wrong one. We'll get to that one in a second. This is the one that comes to us from Variety, just kind of clarifying the whole thing here is those films, we're talking about Quiet Place 2 and Mission Impossible 7. Those films will debut exclusively in theaters as planned. After 45 days, new Paramount theatrical films will land on the budding streaming service Paramount Plus. Currently, Mission Impossible 7 is scheduled to release in theaters on November 19th, and I think it's going to be able to hold that date. And Quiet Place 2 is set for September 17th. I also think that looks like it's going to be able to hold its date as well. The announcement was made during Viacom CBS's Investor Day on Wednesday. The presentation was orchestrated to hype up Paramount Plus, which launches on March 4th. The platform, a rebrand and expansion of the CBS All Access platform, will have to compete with a glut of streaming service offerings, including Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, Disney Plus, and the one we forgot to mention, Apple TV Plus, which is also doing some really good stuff. Yeah. And let's read that last line again. It will all have to compete with a glut of streaming service offerings, including Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, Disney Plus, and Apple TV Plus, and of course the Amazon stuff as well. And that last line is why they're doing this. That's why, because they've already got that huge amount of competition out there, and we'll see where this goes. Question is, guys, for you. What do you think about this move that Paramount's for at least a little while? They're going to try a 45-day release window. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But listen, this is a big splash between G.I. Joe, between Avatar, now Mission Impossible. Paramount Plus is trying to say, hey, guys, we're here too. Is it going to work? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.